This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in. Very excited to be back on the Triple Option. Obviously, we were off on Monday, and then we had a couple of unexpected days off because our producer Garrett was out sick, and then yesterday Jack and I decided not to do a show because we were going to work out a technical problem that he worked out as I was walking in the door yesterday. Asked me one question like, hey, how does this sound to you? And I went, oh, it sounds fantastic. And he's like, yeah, I figured it out, but I had not prepared anything or done anything.
We got other work done,
So we got other work done, but the thing that we thought was going to take this whole hour to do took 5 minutes. So, you know, it took 5 minutes of my time. It might have taken like 10 minutes of Jack's time beforehand.
I don't even think that much.
So about 10 total minutes, like all together, that it took before I walked in the door yesterday.
I feel a little stupid for how quickly
sometimes that happens.
The problem.
Zach Burke used to be my producer, and he joins us from Rogue Media today. And Zach, you and I I see your face doing this, and you're nodding your head. This is something that you and I have done hundreds of times of like, all right, well, let's get in on Saturday morning at 8:30. And we're going to work out this problem. And then I'm like, okay, you stand in this room and I'll stand in that room. Hit the button on your left. And like, oh, shit, I hear it now. Like,
Yep. It's one of two things. It's either where it was, it'll be a quick thing, and then it took us forever to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or we plan out the whole day. We're like, we're going to figure out what this problem is. And we're there 10 minutes and like, all right, well, that was fun.
All right, guess we're going to Denny's.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's up for pancakes? I'm treating.
He's a lot. All right.
Yeah. I won't go down the road of your 21st birthday at Denny's, Zach, at all. I won't do that. One of us on this call hit himself in the face with a bottle of ketchup.
They're slippery.
So
I stand by that still.
They are very slippery. So, Zach, I don't know. You've been on the podcast like this is your third time?
Yeah, this is number 3.
Number 3. So the third time on the podcast, and we've talked about a great many subjects. I had you on during college basketball. One of the things I want to talk about right off the top is that last night was the day to withdraw from the NBA draft. And I kind of expected this like cavalcade of announcements. And so far, it's not really been what you'd call a cavalcade. Now, there are big guys like Coleman Hawkins out. Like, there's a lot of the guys who are big guys who saw what great Osabor made at Washington, and they're like, oh, I could not be drafted and not make that much money, or go back and bilk some NIL collective out of it, and that's what they're going to do. Coleman Hawkins, I think probably the most prestigious among the group that came back, but there's also guys like Arthur Kaluma and all that, and they're all in the transfer portal now. So they're going to get drafted by a college, essentially. Yeah. Like, this is their process. One name who, and let me check, but we still have not heard from, is Jackson Robinson. Although we might have, hold on, but Jackson Robinson has not said anything about him coming back yet. And he is the target of maybe staying at BYU, although he's in the portal, going to Kentucky with his old coach, or going to Kansas. So,
Yeah.
And so he hasn't said anything yet, and nobody knows, because he could have told I'm sure, whatever decision he's made, the NBA knows.
Oh, for sure.
Jackson Robinson hasn't said anything yet. And it's created, I think it's very funny, between the Kansas and Kentucky fan bases, this like waiting with bated breath kind of a thing, particularly at Kentucky, because they think it's a foregone conclusion he's going to follow Mark Pope there. But do you like watching, like, these things are kind of silly in the offseason, but I do like watching the fandom just be like, just tell us what you're doing.
It does give, I think that it adds a little more length to the college basketball season in a way of, like you were talking about, like, it gives fandoms like something to hang on to, where recruiting was one thing, the whole, NIL and just the transfer portal, it just as a whole is just lengthened how long the season has, of where it's not just a, November to April sport anymore, that it's something that you watch around the offseason too. I enjoy that aspect of it being able to, it gives fan bases something to hang on to, something to watch, something to follow. But at the same time, then it turns into, after a while, a game of musical chairs that becomes a little bit too confusing for me to follow. Of this person's going here because of this. No, this person might go here because of this. And then trying to keep track of every player that's out there and where they might wind up. In this case, with Jackson Robinson, it makes sense following Mark Pope. But
he is going with Mark Pope. I just saw that, finally. He's going to Kentucky, which means that, Kansas has to move on to somebody. They wanted one more guy, and they wanted one more guy because they knew they were going to lose Johnny Furphy, which they did. Johnny Furphy staying in the draft, saying goodbye to the Jayhawks. That is, by the way, a whole Big 12 season, the first time I've done an Australian accent in talking about Johnny Furphy or made any kind of Australian joke. So I think that shows a lot of discipline on my part.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah,
no, I think that. No, you're a gentleman, or you're a Renaissance man. There you
yes. Go. I witnessed here's a weird thing about Johnny Furphy and what I'll always remember. I witnessed by far his best game of the season in Lawrence against Houston. I was there for that. And then I watched him here in Waco, and that was his worst game of the season. Baylor was picking on him so bad that they benched him. And in a season where Kansas had no bench, like putting a starter on the bench was not ideal in any way, shape, or form. But I got to see both ends of the Johnny Furphy spectrum. And I'm not knocking Johnny Furphy, but this is an NBA draft that is not insanely deep.
Yeah. No, it seems like I know that the players are taking offense to that, and I understand that obviously if you're in this draft class, you don't want to hear people call it like a weak draft class because you're a part of it. But it does seem just kind of from top to bottom. There's not the names that are there. It's nothing like necessarily super exciting. Like I know that there's a lot of talk of, what's going to happen with somebody like Bronny and stuff like that. But it's not a draft of where you're like top to bottom, like, oh yeah, that's a guy that's going to be able to, help my team in a couple years, be that get them to over that playoff hump that I want them to. They just don't have like the big giant names. It does seem a little down. So I don't know. Like I get that it's the kind of you take what you get with draft classes from year to year. And I'm sure, looking back at it, 5-6 years from now, we'll look at this draft class and it's not going to be that bad after all. There's probably names that we'll look at that'll turn into, decent pros, but at least right now it's just kind of, it's a little lackluster. Well, so you deal with your Furphies.
Well, and look, last year, like part of it is you can never, when you have a guy like Wemby in a draft or like, when there's a Luka draft or an Anthony Edwards draft, like, people are going to talk about that one. And this one, it's like, we don't really know. So
yeah, but there's also been times, what was his name? UNLV, Anthony, my goodness. I'm blanking on first round picks. Anthony Bennett. Like you'll have years where like, somebody like,
was he UVA, Anthony Bennett?
I thought he was UNLV. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, he was a total whiff.
Yeah, but that's like, you'll have years where it's like, oh yeah, no, it can't be, So like I get the draft, we never really know sometimes until it's all said and done, but
yeah. But yeah, so like that happened. I expected this big wave, but mostly so far we've seen kind of what you expected. I am fascinated, and we don't ever really talk NBA on this podcast, but I am fascinated on Rich Paul and LeBron James and Bronny completely dictating his draft process for a guy that they're only going to take to make LeBron happy. And like Bronny might wind up being a really good pro basketball player. We don't know. I'm not trying to knock it, but he hardly played last year because of his medical condition. And when he did play, he wasn't, what you thought of like, oh, this is a true one and done here. And, he's not going to take a 2-way contract. He's not going to go to the G League and all this stuff. And look, if he's the 12th player on the bench and that means you get LeBron on the roster, like totally worth it. Especially for what will be, his last run. It's just so weird to me that you can be that popular. They're like, you know what? Draft my kid. Nobody else draft my kid. He's not going to go anywhere else. I'll tell you who can draft my kid. And then if you draft my kid, you kind of know what's going to happen.
I think and I probably have a different perspective on it than some people do, but I look at it where like, why not? Like, I mean, you are not saying that, like throwing it around, but like I could see, are you telling me if Tom Brady's son wasn't coming out to play when he was still playing that he wouldn't pull something like this? No. Like some of it's going to be there. Like if he's LeBron freaking James, like if he can do it, he should do it a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit nepotism, but still, like the dude's earned it as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Yeah. That aside, you're right. Bronny could very much turn into a great NBA player on his own. So you're drafting him. I think I heard the GM of the Wizards say it best, that it would be a lot better if this guy's name was Johnny James when we were trying to sit there and just, go through and look at his stats and what he's doing there. It's they're looking at him just like they are every other NBA player, but you have to think in the back of your mind that there's a chance, or, that we're getting LeBron there with it too. So I think it plays into it, but I think also if you're an NBA team, as much as the thrill of having LeBron there, even for the twilight, it's still LeBron. I think you weigh more of what Bronny actually turns into as a player, and how you rate him as a player depends on if you go through with him in the process at all. But it's basketball's Griffey's. That's what it's going to be.
Oh, look, yeah, and that's your dude.
That is my dude. Yeah,
that's your dude. Is Ken Griffey Jr. Did you? I sent you that website of like all that Ken Griffey gear.
Yes.
Did you kind of go nuts on that?
I did. I have a couple shirts and stuff now. There was one. It was like 8-bit. It looked like the old Super Nintendo. Dude. Yeah. No, I did.
Okay. I was just wondering. Zach is a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan, and we did a test podcast on something else that we have not yet released yet, and it's been like a year because we've got to get that right. But it was you were like kind of my test subject on walk through your pain. Yes. And you have a story which I will reserve so that we can tell this at the end of the podcast, because we haven't done it on this one yet.
No, we haven't.
About you and Ken Griffey Jr. and how much your life was just shattered when you thought you were going to get a chance to see him play 4 times, or at least once in 4 games.
I got to see Ian Snell pitch though, so you get that. No offense, Ian.
I still have like a picture of you in my head sitting at the other games you bought tickets to, just mad and like, now batting number 29, Brett Boone. You're like, up yours, Boone.
It was just a lot of just like.
Laura, your now wife is like, hey, you want a hot dog? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. No, see, like I convinced a buddy of mine to like go with me. So like he was staying up there and he went to all the games with me, and so he was just like, yeah, all right. Like he was just trying to enjoy him along with me. You want something? A snack? It's like, I mean, whatever. Yeah.
Like, whatever. Oh, there's the peanuts guy. Yeah, he can go to hell. All right. So in the next segment, I want to talk about the instability of the ACC. We had Brett McMurphy on our show yesterday, and he kind of laid out the plan that will happen when, not if, Florida State and Clemson leave the ACC, because right now it's all about them negotiating their way out. Like there's not a chance, for the ACC. And then he even said that he doesn't, see a way forward for the ACC to kind of stay together when that happens and they become unstable, because there's so many factors in the way. And, for a basketball conference that just had like one of its best years ever, and then now a football conference that is probably seeing a little bit of what the Pac-12 did a little bit. And when you don't push football enough and you don't care enough, and the TV money starts flowing around, and you've got 3 or 4 schools that care about it a lot, and then the rest of them are like, we love all our sports equally. This is sadly what happens. We'll come back and talk about that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Zach. Where'd Zach go?
I don't know, but also...
Oh, there he is.
I accidentally cut that break early. I forgot that we do more than the UPN spot. So
my bad.
That's partially on me.
I had like 45 seconds or so.
You should have.
You should have.
That was on Jack.
You should have. But, so
I'm just trying to make him look bad.
Yeah, no, he's here it is.
Not tough.
You had essentially Jack's job in a previous iteration. And I feel like you guys would like each other, but there's a little bit of sibling rivalry or something going on.
Well, yeah, I'm the younger, better, newer model.
Yeah, so he just wants to maybe show you up a little bit.
Zach.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's accurate. I'm just old and bitter now at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like Shadow from Homeward Bound.
Shadow, you just dropped. There's no one that's watching this podcast that's going to get that reference. At all.
Not everyone on this podcast got that reference.
No. I mean, I remember Homeward Bound, but I only remember that it is a thing that's a movie.
Talking animals, but Shadow's like the old dog, and he's always like, "Oh no, we shouldn't do it. We need to he's just old and grumpy." Like that.
Okay, good deal. Would you like to do a podcast just breaking down the lessons learned from Homeward Bound? Get some of the voice actors on to hear about the hijinks behind the scenes.
I hadn't thought about it until right now, but I'm seriously considering that. And then maybe I can dive down the other Disney well. Like maybe we can do old movies like Escape to Witch Mountain or
You could here's a podcast pitch for you guys at Rogue. For you to do this is for you to do alone. Alone.
Okay.
Alone. No one should really do this with you unless you find another you out there like you. But like Escape from Witch Mountain, do the original one, and then the new like Freaky Friday and new Freaky Friday, Parent Trap and Parent Trap. Lindsay Lohan, like Herbie the Love Bug, she essentially she's in a lot of those. Like she was in the new Parent Trap, Herbie, all that. Like any kind of modern reboot that they've done, like
she was all over that.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Yeah,
I'll do. I mean, by myself, I get why because I mean that's a lot of quality cinema to watch. You can't ask everybody to commit to that.
You'll find some other nerd that's with you that's like, listen, when they redid Escape to Witch Mountain, I was furious.
I'm telling you, I'm a fan of the original. I don't even need to watch the new one to tell you that it's worse. The Rock is just terrible. That's just
so. If they do Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I walk. No.
I do. Big Van Dyke is a legend, and he will be treated as such.
That's even me getting film nerdy here. But Zach, has this happened to you? You and I, when we were single men, we watched a lot of movies. We went to the movies quite a bit together.
We did. Yeah.
I don't get to do that. Anymore.
I don't go to the movies at all really anymore.
Yeah, and I love it. You know how much I love it. I love it. It's a thing I love. And
I'm going to go in July probably, but the next time I go.
Yeah. My wife is not a movie lover. At all? No. I mean, she likes the movies that she likes, but I'm a connoisseur of cinema. I love seeing things like I didn't get to see Oppenheimer in the theater. As a matter of fact, I just saw Oppenheimer a week ago because she was out of town and I had 3 hours where, I could watch it uninterrupted.
Yeah.
I am now an hour into Dune 2. So again, you have to do these things in pieces. And this is not something anybody told me was going to happen. I just thought that I was going to get to go watch movies. And I thought Shima would be on board. We've had
Occasionally.
Okay. So here's what movies that I've wanted to see that we've gone together that have been number one on my list.
Okay.
That she has gone with me. We went to see the first Ghostbusters, sequel
Of the
yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife,
Okay.
which she was fine with. Then we went to see Bullet Train, which she thought Sandra Bullock was in.
I mean, she kind of.
She's at the end,
at
which
the
is
end.
a movie I loved. It was so good, but she hated every second of it.
Really? See,
And
I enjoyed Bullet Train.
every second of it. She hated she hated it from the beginning to the end, to the part where Bad Bunny got killed, all those things.
Well,
also, it didn't help that there were
Sad that Bad Bunny got killed though too.
okay, there were two girls sitting next to us that were only there to see Bad Bunny. Like, for some reason, they thought the movie was a Bad Bunny vehicle. Like, he was the star in it. And I'm like, well, I saw him in the trailer for a second, but like, Brad Pitt's in every other scene. Like, he might be the second most famous person in that movie after Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But like, that doesn't mean that he's a main character in the movie. And then the minute he died, they were furious and they kept just talking. And I'm like, what did you think?
They were done being invested in it. What they came to see was over.
Anyway, the week after that, we had to go see the re-release of Dirty Dancing, a movie that I just don't get. I just don't get the appeal of it. And I know there's people who like it, but I don't. And so I'm just like, And so we had to do it, and I got in trouble because at the beginning, here's what happened. Because I'm the worst person alive. At the beginning, Jennifer Grey comes on, and there's a sequel that's coming out here like this year or next year that they were working on where it's a direct sequel to the original Dirty Dancing. She's in it and all that. And she's like, it's got all the dancing and all the thing and everything you loved from the original movie. And I turned to Amanda and I was like, well, not everything, because Patrick Swayze's dead. And so is Jerry Orbach. Like, that's kind of a lie. And she's like, well, that was mean. I'm like, well, it doesn't have everything you loved.
Yeah.
You saw this movie because of Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a non sequitur.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, exactly. I've tried a couple times. Like, she's like gotten up and left the room while we're like, we don't have anything to watch. And I will put Roadhouse on and like just fast forward real quick and hit play in a random scene. And then she's like, what is this? I'm like, this is the guy you love. This is the actor you love from Ghost and Dirty Dancing doing something that I love, kicking people in the face.
And being friends with Sam Elliott.
Yeah. Tell me what's a better movie, Roadhouse or Dirty Dancing? Every time it's Roadhouse. Okay. Every single time. Like that's a, he did a lot of good movies, Patrick Swayze.
He did.
He never did one as great as Roadhouse.
Nope.
And I'm acknowledging that he did it great because it's the best awful movie that's ever been made.
Yep. It is. It's my favorite. That and Bloodsport are 1 and 2. But
awful. They're awful movies.
But I love them.
They have no redeeming cinematic quality whatsoever, but they lean into that so hard they come around to the other side. Mm-hmm. It's the genius in that. All right, let's talk about ACC instability. They are, to bring it back to Roadhouse, getting kicked in the face right now because the Big 12 is quite stable. In spite of, as far as stability can go when you're not in the SEC or the Big Ten. The ACC, on the other hand, has lawsuits coming at it from all directions of South Carolina and Florida with Clemson and Florida State. They're trying to keep all this in North Carolina, which isn't going their way. And this thing's going to drag out. It's going to be a long time. Like Brett McMurphy, Action Network, told us yesterday that essentially the ACC just needs to try and run out the clock on this as much as they can so that they can keep the schools in as long as they can. But they know that this is not about reworking the ACC or rebuilding the ACC or reworking the television contract. This is about Florida State and Clemson leaving and going somewhere else. Now, he did say within that the SEC would not be as interested in those schools because it doesn't really change them all that much, but ESPN might be motivated to keep Florida State and Clemson in the SEC because then that keeps Fox, who has the rights to the Big Ten, out of Florida. in particular, and South Carolina, I guess, but Florida's the big one where ESPN could have a corner on the market and as to where that goes. So, it's going to be interesting to see how long this takes and what it does to the rest of the ACC. But they've tried for years and years to be the basketball conference. Mm-hmm. And they just had a year where they had 5 teams make deep runs. They had 2 teams in the Final Four. They did all these things right in basketball, even though the regular season seemed a little wonky. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, like now they're about to lose their 2 best football brands, and no one cares about basketball when it comes to that, which is where the world's going.
Yeah, no, it's turning into, it's definitely a very. Football's moved the meter for a while. As much as I love college basketball, it's just the inevitable of how it works, and so that's what's going to make this move. I am very interested to see, like you talked about, of ESPN trying to make the move of, for Florida State pushing for the SEC. I'm also, I guess let me break it up like this. I get if you're the ACC. The only thing you can do is try to buy your time to hold out because once it starts, it's just going to, I assume, be very much like Pac-12-ish. Mm-hmm. So I think you try to hang on and you bar the door as long as you can until they eventually you can't anymore. Now let me ask you this, and this is just me being curious out of it all. As a Florida State guy, right? Mm-hmm. Just do you care one way or the other for a conference of where Florida State lines up? Does it matter? Is it just we want a better conference in general?
I would like them to I would have liked things to stay status quo and everybody be fine with it. But I'm not naive enough to think that that's where it's going. So if they're going to leave, I personally would rather watch them play teams that are 100 miles away than
the SEC.
In the SEC, than teams in the Big Ten. Florida State versus Wisconsin would do it for me, in a non-conference game. That would be interesting. But Florida State versus Minnesota in November, to me, is not something I want to say. I don't care. It's not. But Florida State and Oklahoma in November, or Florida State and Georgia in November, the teams that, they already play Florida in November every year. They're not going to stop playing Miami, even if Miami doesn't go where they go. So the rivalries will all still be there, Florida State versus Tennessee, Florida State versus Texas. And to me, that's more intriguing. The least interesting game would be FSU versus Vanderbilt. And I still care about that a whole lot more than I would about FSU versus all but about 5 teams in the Big Ten. Nebraska would excite me because of the history of the 90s. Obviously, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, USC. So 6 would excite me. But then when you get into everybody else, it's no offense to them, but am I going to watch Clemson and Michigan State and be like, the same way I would if Clemson was playing Mizzou even.
I didn't mean to catch up, but and that's the things to me is, even just as a college football fan and not having any stake in that game, those regional matchups still seem like they mean more in general. So even though it's Florida and Georgia, or Florida State and Georgia State, again, mean more to me as average college football fan than Clemson and Minnesota. It's just not. So I get the movement there. I just don't know then what, like I said, I think the ACC needs to hold on, because then after it goes, it's going to turn into the Pac-12 where who knows what's left. But I just don't know. I think I read an article from a couple days ago this morning where it was Utah's rumored to go to the ACC. Well, it just I don't know what all of this is. It feels like it's just going to be more of why? But I don't know. It feels like every time something like this comes up, we get more rumors and stuff. I'm interested to see how long the ACC gets together, but from everything I've read, and from it seems like you're telling there, it's only a matter of time. And once Florida State and Clemson decide where they go, that's going to be what starts the.
But by the way, the Utah to the ACC thing was started by an Oregon State blogger or something, and just to basically get a rise out of Utah fans, and it worked. and it got the realignment world just kind of ran with it. But I'm going to be doing a video, kind of our last week tonight thing we did on Dabo. I'm going to be doing that about realignment, and it's going to be realignment for dummies. I'm going to come up and do a whole video about that because I really do feel that the PSA needs to be done about like everything that everyone says about realignment. 99% of it is not true. And like, if you want to talk about realignment, that's fine. And it's fun and it's a good thought exercise, but like, you have to start about like, here's what's true and here's what the facts are now. And most of the time, like things don't really move at that fast a pace. And the reason that, and when he even said like Utah would want more stability in the ACC, like you mean the conference is getting sued by the two biggest like football members of it? Like that one's stable. Like the one who every day has to be like, all right, what do the lawyers say today? Like that's the one that's stable? No. The one that's about to lose. Here's the other thing. And this was true for the Big 12, but it worked out because they had strength in numbers outside of Texas and Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. But when Oklahoma left, this wasn't necessarily true for Texas, although they certainly have, a litany of Big 12 titles. They don't have as many as Oklahoma, but the Big 12 has also had way more people who have played and won that, recently or kind of gone through. But, I mean, Texas is won the Big 12 on their way out. But, like, Clemson and Florida State for the last 40 years have, like, 36 of the titles. So it's not.
Yeah, I read, and there's also like articles of when we talk about obviously just realignment to talk, but they're like, oh, if FSU and Clemson, go to the SEC, where does the rest of the ACC wind up in the Big Ten and SEC? And I want it to be like, not all those teams are going there. Like,
no, the other ones don't have that much room. Like what I see is like, two teams or so going to the Big Ten, 2 to 4 teams going to the SEC, and 2 to 4 teams winding up in the Big 12, and then the rest of them going like,
hey, Oregon State,
hey, what's going on? We still have a channel? Do we still have a channel? What's going on?
I mean, the article I read, though, thinks Pitt's a Big Ten team. So,
again, like those things, the realignment for dummies. That's what we're going to call it. It's going to be realignment for dummies. And we'll see. Maybe the For Dummies franchise will come to me.
You can turn it into one of the books that they sell then.
I'm sure there's a nice, like, it may not sell as much as like home repair for dummies or, sex for dummies like that one. I'm sure that's a real one.
Like, I know. I get it. Well, and I'm sure it's very helpful. Like, but it's just a weird, I wonder what the most ordered one is.
That one. I would say that one because look, I worked in a bookstore. Yeah. I can tell you the only people who actually had the cojones to come up and buy it were high school kids. Like they're ones that were like, oh, this is going to be hilarious. We're going to look at it. Yeah. And they didn't know anything either, but they could laugh at it. Yeah. But like, I never saw like a 30-year-old man walk up and be like,
too much shame.
Here you go. Yeah. No. I like, here's the thing. When anybody, like any kind of medical issue at all, like people in bookstores don't judge. We don't know you. We'll never see you again unless you like keep coming in and buying the same kind of things. We're like, well, this guy is specifically into manga in a weird way. But, those kind of things would like jump out. But they like if they had to order a book, because that was in the days where you had to go into a place and ask them and they would order it from the internet for you. Yeah. Our partnership was with Amazon, which is, well, it was honestly, it was like the Imperial Senate, like going, sure, Palpatine, we'll jump in with you. We got you.
It did start out with books though. So
but people would come in and they would like, I need this book. And then they would tell me and like, I just, keep my head forward and, like, okay, no problem. It'll be mailed to your house, mailed to your house in 5 to 7 business days. He's like, I don't have to come back in here. No. You paid for it. It's good. It's good. It's going to come to your house. And he's like, oh.
I have relief then as they leave. Yep.
Oh, okay. Good deal. All right.
See you again. All right. Bye.
Good deal. So they do like, or they do a lot of people Order this book. Oh yeah, there's tons of people that have
Yeah, we're just sold out here. That's the thing. So that's why we're having to.
Yeah. No, tons of people have left angled, like it's fine. It's a very common problem. It's like the chicken pox.
Yeah. Once you have it once, well.
Absolutely. When we come back, Zach's story of woe, and is there anybody in any other industry who is as bad as Angel Hernandez was at his job that got to keep his job as long as Angel Hernandez did? This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Zach Burke, pride of Riesel, Texas, joins
I don't
us
have
now.
the billboard yet, though. One day.
One day. Who is the most famous Riesel resident?
I want to say me, but no, I mean, I don't live there anymore, so I guess that. You know what? There's one. Okay, here's something I always like to tell, because I always like to tease Paul about this. Is there was a guy that played football there when I was in elementary school by the name of Bruce Galbert, who went and ended up playing football at TCU, but he was recruited by like Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Florida State. So I always like to tell Paul that I'll be down knows where Riesel, Texas is.
Yeah. Well, he also went and tried to recruit Quan Cosby out of Mart, and he didn't do well in that little 8-mile run. Right there.
That's not bound territory right there.
No, I guess not. They don't know. They don't want to, break out. And I will say this, as Quan is a good friend of mine, into the fancy world of Tallahassee, Florida. But Zach, before we tell your tale of woe, and we'll keep it brief, because I don't need you to spend the rest of your day at work crying from a painful memory. Yeah. But is there anybody in any industry that was as bad at their job that you can think of? They got to keep doing it for as long as they did, as Angel Hernandez did in Major League Baseball.
Nope. I don't even have to think about it. Just nope.
Okay, who would come? Like who would be in the club? Like if they had a convention of people who suck at their jobs, like famous people who are just bad but kept getting to do it.
See, to me, like I'm gonna have to think for a bit. That was kind of mean. Jay Leno at the end.
But he was. I mean, here's the thing. He was.
There was a time where he was good.
He was good at it. He just was a backstabber. I thought of him too, but he never sucked at the job. He just didn't want anybody else to do it.
Michael Jordan as a basketball executive.
Yeah. Finally, he's not doing that anymore.
It's true. But again, that's not him as a player. Like that's him as a basketball
executive. No, he was bad at that. Yeah.
So, to me, when I read that headline that he was fine, I've never celebrated. It's odd to celebrate about the not having to deal with an umpire anymore, to know one by name. Like usually, not to say like it's a thankless job.
The only two bad ones I think of in my life are him and Joe West.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. And so there's two guys that were bad at umpiring, and they're both not umpiring anymore. And Angel Hernandez, like at no point, like, because they assess these. I think that's what some fans don't know. Like all these guys get assessed, and so he sued Major League Baseball because he wasn't getting World Series assignments, and it's very like there are lots of other guys that like he's it's because I'm Cuban. They're like no, all the white guys who suck too don't get to go. Like they want the best ones, and the Major League Baseball was telling Angel like the nicest way they could, like we don't want you to ruin our signature event. Yeah. Like the last thing there's gonna be bad calls anyway, but we don't want those bad calls to go on because you were just mad at Curt Schilling or something like that. Like that's why, like, I don't like Bryce Harper, so he's checking swings. Those kind of things. There's
kind of just got into it with Harper there too. Like that's the thing. He's the only guy that I can type in, and it's going to have, hey, Angel Hernandez is no longer an ump. Here's his 8 worst calls that he's ever had. Like who else?
The other thing is 8 worst calls he ever had. 100 different baseball sites have done that, and none of them have been the same. None of them have been the same. So like 800 terrible calls, none of them, there's no Venn diagram. It's just all 8 separate calls that were the worst.
That's one might be on there from like 98, like that one where you did touch home. But like aside from that, it's like they're all different. Yeah. I remember like just from earlier this year, I am nerdy enough and on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. I still call it Twitter. The umpire scorecard, I absolutely love seeing. And I remember the game from April between the Rangers and Astros, where I think the Rangers ended up winning 12-8, but his calls resulted in 4 runs for the Astros. 78% of just like Wyatt Langford was called out on 3 pitches outside the zone, like in a row. It was just kind of like, he was like, it's like your drunk uncle was back there just calling balls and strikes, and he's too busy sitting there like, strike. Like that's what it was there. Like it seemed like watching him play at the end, umpire at the end. So it's the only one. I can't think of anybody else.
I think I'll put it. Here's what he was able to accomplish as an umpire. What every career politician ever has been able to accomplish, where because you have one thing that that you can tell the people in charge. Mm-hmm. Not to get with the people in charge of keeping you in power, which are, the lobbies and the electorate, like those two things, like just because if you have one thing, if you're good enough at one thing and as a congressman, you can keep that job for 70 years. Yeah. You don't have to be able to get up and go to the bathroom on your own. But if you will do this one thing for the people who either fund it or think that that's why you're there and why you're some sort of hero to their community, you can keep that job. Angel Hernandez took that and applied it to being an umpire. Like, that's what it was. Like, I have this thing and this thing. You can't, I'm in the union. You can't fire me. And I know the union supported him and all that stuff, but I do think there was probably a point during some of that where they're like, please just go. Like, you're not helping it. Like, Doug over here would like to move up. Like, he's pretty good. He needs some work, but he would like to move up. He's got a little bit of a dispute. He's upset about his pay, but you're kind of sucking all the air out of the room here. And none of us think you're good. As a matter of fact, I imagine getting on the plane before he gets on there, like, what was that crap at third base last night? Like, what are we doing, man? Yeah.
Come on, Angel. Do you think other guys, when they got the cards, like who they worked with, they just saw it and their heads just kind of hung like,
oh, well, I'm glad they make a lot of beer in Milwaukee because I'm going to need it.
We'll be on Sports Center, guys.
Yeah. You guys want to take that free beer tour of the Miller Brewery? On the off day,
that's I'd like to.
Yeah,
I'd like to. Angel, no, you stay.
Don't tell. Like I have a feeling he was like, oh, what are you guys doing for dinner? Room service. We're all just gonna get room. So 12 innings today. We're all kind of tired.
While he was getting food, like I thought you guys were getting room service.
Like, oh no, I mean I ran into Lenny in the hall, and then we just said let's go to Hooters. We got to Hooters, and Dan was here, so
like, man, I'm just
sorry.
saying.
It was totally impromptu. Sorry, we thought you'd already be in bed.
I love how we started one way and now we are role playing all the umps trying to go to dinner without
go to Hooters without Angel Hernandez. Yes, that's a segment that I think I would be gifted at. We could do on the show. It's just you and me improv. Like somebody gives us a scenario and we'll just improv it out. Like maybe the next time I have you on, we will improv out a sports scenario based on that. We'll crowdsource it and see if we can.
You didn't even know you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's tell the story real quick before we go. Zach, for those who have not met you, we worked together at the radio station for a very long time, and this was probably your third year or so because we were still in the old building. You know, like we were still in the old building, and you were taking your first ever like grown up like week off of work. So this is like your first year, like 21, 22, like the first ever, like I have a job, I'm taking the week off. I'm going go on vacation. And like, you weren't going to Cabo. You weren't like taking a backpacking trip through Europe, it was one of those like broke guy vacations where it's like, hey, I can get tickets for this. I'm a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan. This is his last season. He's pretty much said as much. And they're playing the Mariners for these 4 games in June. And I can get cheap tickets to all of them. So you bought knowing that he wasn't going to play every day, 4 tickets to...
Bought tickets to go see that series because I thought he's just DHing. Like he wasn't playing the field.
Yeah.
So it was like, I would think, all right, out of those 4 games, like he's going to be able to bat, hopefully play ABH at one of those times.
Yeah. Booked yourself a hotel for the first time in your life? Like
I was
all
20,
those things.
I double check. It was 2010. So I was 22 because it happened before. Actually, I was 20. I think it happened before my birthday. So I was 21, about to be 22. Yeah.
Yeah. So about to be 22, like first kind of big,
a little later. Never
like
mind, 23. Anyway.
Grown up like thing you were doing, right? And so you were very excited. Like I remember the joy on your face. And literally I remember going on the air on Monday. The Rangers didn't play on Monday. There was their off day. They played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that week or whatever. They had it was a 4-game set. I remember going on the air on Monday and the lead story on SportsCenter.
Friday.
Friday. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Going on the air, and the lead story, Christine Lisi comes on and gives the update, and it broke right as the show was starting. So pot up the thing and wait. It's like, baseball legend Ken Griffey Jr. has decided to retire. And
he's not making the trip to Arlington.
Not making the trip to Arlington. Like he's not even going to sit in the dugout and do a farewell tour and wave to people. He's not going to he's retiring effective an hour ago. Like for the Mariners.
I left early that Friday.
Yeah.
I was eating we went out to eat. So I was out eating and it was on the TV and I had to sit there and watch the saddest meal I've ever eaten. And then that Monday, me and my friend, we drove up there and I had to watch Ian Snell and the rest of the Mariners play the Rangers for 4 games. You know who wasn't there? Ken Griffey Jr. for all of them. Yeah. So my favorite part about the whole, and I was just sitting there just dejected because I thought this is going to be it. This is when I finally get to see the man that I admired for so long. I tried to teach myself how to bat left-handed in Little League so I could be like Ken Griffey Jr. I never was able to, but still. So like it meant so much to me, and just to sit there and be like, well, I don't care about the rest of the Mariners. All right. And sit there and watch all 4 games. My favorite part about the whole story, though, of just telling how dejected and how close I was to it, is telling that story to Arthur Rhodes. Arthur Rhodes being just like, "Man, that sucks," and just damn, all right. I was like, "Yeah, no, you're right."
And then here's the thing: I thought he'd be like, I'll just call him right now. I'll just call him. You can talk to him. He was like, "Yeah, that sucks," and just walked up. So here's the sad 5 years later, like addendum to this story, like we're watching the movie, like just this little part of it. So you were not with us, but Craig and Smokey and Q and I were at the Super Bowl Radio Row in Phoenix, or maybe it was San Francisco. I can't remember. I think it might have been San Francisco. I can't remember which one. It's San Francisco. We were in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I'm remembering the convention center now. So we're in San Francisco, and two things happened. Two things happened on that day. One, Ryan Reynolds came and did an interview with the Vancouver station that was right next to us because he's from Vancouver. And it was just like, it was right before Deadpool came out. And it was like, holy cow, there's Ryan Reynolds. But that was the cool thing. And the other cool thing was, so early in the morning, we're there 8 o'clock. And I'm sitting there, and Q and I have just kind of sat down. And he goes, look, it's Ken Griffey Jr. And I went, oh, my God. So I spent the majority of the day like trying to track him down and get him on the show. But he's such a huge guest, he didn't have time to the 254 at all. But I said, like, look, I just need him. Like, if we don't do an interview, we just need him for about 5 minutes. We've got to get our producer on the air. And I told him the story, and the guy goes, damn. Like, I told him the whole story. He's like, damn, he's like, I'll try. And I don't think he ever brought it up to Ken because, like, you know, they're just place to place to place. Yeah. But I was like, man, if I could just get him on the mic for 5 minutes and be like, hey, Zach, like, I wasn't above telling him that you had some kind of rare, you know, you have Garfunkel's disease, and you're like,
you're a community fan like me. I would be like Troy around LeVar Burton. That's how I would be. You can't disappoint a picture like that. You know, like I would just go stone cold silent. But yeah.
I said, I love LeVar Burton.
I only wanted a picture.
You can't disappoint a picture is one of my favorite lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Zach, thanks for hopping on today and letting us test out some of our new gear. And new,
keep him on for one more second.
I gotta
try one thing.
So we're gonna try one thing with you, Zach.
Ooh,
yeah.
One more.
You might not notice.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be a star wipe, but
no.
Oh, no. There we go. Was that the thing?
Yeah. Okay. So
anything. So I didn't notice.
Yeah.
It.
Look.
Of course he's not noticing it, but we're noticing it. Like we can't hear him if he's talking right now.
Oh.
See, and now we can hear him. Okay, see, look, but this isn't disconnecting his call. No. So
what are you doing?
I'm your arms.
I'm just hiding you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Paul. You see, this is what's interesting to me is that like it's getting like this.
Okay.
But yeah, Zach, can you talk?
Yeah. No. I can talk about anything. I tell you my lovely setup I have here. I have Run the Jules picture, MF Doom, your favorite MC. And then over here, we got some 21 Pilots. Speaking of community, we got the Britta, mother of 5.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And then some good old Jack Kirby, some Mr. Miracle, you know, stuff like that.
There we go. So I'm glad you're comfortable in your nerddom over there at Rogue.
I'm very much comfortable in my nerddom.
Yeah, they really let you come out of the nerd closet over there.
They do.
Yeah.
You know, my wife always says that she didn't know how nerdy I was until we got married, and I fooled her. So I mean, I guess I just do that with everybody.
Good for you.
Okay, well, I've tried what I wanted to. So thank you guys.
Good deal. All right.
All right.
Have a great week. Have a great weekend, Zach. I'll see you soon, buddy.
See you guys. All
right. That's going to do it for us. We've got a loaded show today on 365 Sports. We've got T.R. Sullivan, Hall of Fame baseball writer, C.J. Moore from The Athletic, Max Olson from The Athletic, Off the Radar with Craig Smoke, Christy Dosh from Forbes, and my top 5. That's all coming up this afternoon in just about an hour on 365 Sports. Have a great weekend, everybody.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.